And welcome into the Tuesday edition. Robby and Rexrode here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Sponsored by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. And the biscuit is back, baby. 1 day absent. People very upset yesterday with us, and specifically Chase McCabe. But it's back today, Joe. How we feeling?
Our national nightmare is over. I tell you what, man. I wish that all businesses responded like this to customer, complaints / suggestions. Right?
I agree.
I mean, that is some fast acting, and very well. I was wondering because he's like, "Oh, I know where I'll put it." I'm like, okay, where are you going to put the biscuit? He put the biscuit in a very good place.
He did, and I tell you, this has always been a show about and for the people, and we're coming through yet again. I mean, just immediately after the disaster that was yesterday with that not in there.
Got the biscuits and the ghost runner now together. So
which I kind of like. I kind of like that combo. There's no doubt about that. Keyser,
yeah,
what's going on? How we doing?
Morning, fellas. Doing well. I'll have to keep my eyes out for more drops, right? Just finding more biscuits.
Well, I mean, just let Rexrode talk for long enough. We'll probably come up with something. Too.
Let Rexrode cook. Let Rexrode say a lot of dumb crap. It's bound to happen.
Meanwhile, we're looking for more answers from someone else that we've not heard from yet.
Well, a lot of things.
Look at you with the segue.
Yeah, a lot of things going on. A lot of things maybe not going on. Who knows? No news yesterday on the Titans front, Joe, after we got off the air. I was really expecting about 9:04 a.m. yesterday of a statement to be released or somebody to get fired or something. And that didn't happen. Brian Callahan did speak to the media yesterday around 1:30, which we're going to get into a lot of what he said today here on the program. But at the moment, I will say, Joe, a little bit less of an active Black Monday yesterday league-wide than I anticipated heading into it.
Yeah. Obviously, we've talked about the Giants. That was one that certainly you thought would happen. So I'm trying to figure out who else is sitting here in limbo, which I just find to be ridiculous at this point. So the Titans, more ridiculousness from the Titans. The Raiders, right? Antonio Pierce is still not sure, right? There hasn't been a statement there as far as I know. Is there anybody else that that's truly, because we saw a bunch of statements yesterday for people, who weren't changing. I guess there's this thing with McCarthy, but that's just I don't know what the heck that is. What other teams want to talk to him?
Apparently, the Chicago Bears want to talk to Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. Which I'm sure Bears fans are like, oh, goody. but I saw like Jerry Jones said something like, well, if you don't want to be here, then talk, whatever. He's going to let him talk. But that's not. I mean, I think that's it, right? I don't think there's anything else that's unsettled. And so, the big surprise would be the Giants standing pat and the Colts standing pat, right? I mean, those are the two that I thought there'd be some movement there. Or what's the third? There's a third one.
I'm trying to think.
Well, it's Balky.
Yes.
Separate from Peterson,
who apparently has a lifetime contract with Jacksonville. That's the only explanation I have.
Well, I mean, Shad Khan did say last year it was the finest team they've ever had in the franchise history. Yeah. So I guess he just believed that and just thought Doug Peterson all of a sudden totally forgot how to coach.
Yeah, which, I mean, again, is who Trent Baalke hired. So, why not go let him hire another coach? I mean, he was there for Urban Meyer. He was there for Doug Peterson. So maybe this time's the charm, baby. Go get another one.
I guess. But, it's just the fact that there's nothing here. And I understand, last year, I guess I'd forgotten that basically Monday, now I remember, like, we talked to players and they were basically, it was like, I remember Will Levis, like, gosh, I hope they don't fire Vrabel, basically, know, but we didn't get Vrabel. And I'm trying to remember, like, whose call that was that we didn't get Vrabel, but obviously there were signs to him that he might be in some trouble. Amy not showing up, not being on the sidelines before the last game and things like that. But I just don't understand. Like, so apparently, and I think this was Jared on his show. Someone on Jared's show, a listener, had the flight tracker, that her flight went back. So, unless she wasn't on it, if it went back to Houston, I just don't understand a lot of the way things are going right now. But hey, I mean, that's par for the course, I guess, with this franchise.
It's kind of been the way it's been around here. So just to kind of set the scene real quickly of where things currently stand, it's not much different than yesterday. There's been no statement from the Titans regarding the future of the coaching staff or the general manager in the front office part of this. We've not heard from anyone outside of Brian Callahan yet. I think that if people are sticking around, that might happen later this week, but we'll see what officially happens on that front. And then in the meantime, Brian Callahan was thrown out there to speak yesterday in his season-ending press conference, to which I thought heading into it and still believe means he's probably in good shape moving ahead here. But he talked about a lot of different things yesterday. We're going to get into the Amy Adams Strunk part of this here in just a few minutes, because I found that to be a very interesting nugget from yesterday's press conference with Brian Callahan. He was asked about the Rand Carthon part of this, and I thought Jared made some good points yesterday when it comes to what Callahan's approach has been. He really didn't say much about the Rand Brinker part of this at all in the immediate aftermath of the game on Sunday, because he was getting, a lot of the similar style questions that he got yesterday at his season-ending press conference. Didn't really dive much into it. Didn't talk a whole lot about Rand and Brinker yesterday. He was asked about, finally, like, hey, do you think that those guys are coming back? And his answer was essentially, well, I've been meeting with players all day, and I don't know anything. I know there's a lot of conjecture out there, but as far as I know, until I'm told differently, those guys are coming back. And then PK got him later in the press conference about the check every box comment that Rand Carthon made in the offseason, which we've talked a lot about. And here was what Brian Callahan had to say on that front.
Brian, do you think it was a mistake for your general manager to say you guys had checked every box on offense, starters and depth? That set certain expectations.
Sure, I understand that. I think that we did feel like we had put pretty good effort into trying to get ourselves in position to be competitive. And when you sign, we want to be a draft and develop football team. That's what we want to do. And in the meantime, though, we needed to supplement with free agency. I don't think that any of us are under any guises that this is how you build a team all the time. You don't want to do that all the time. But we had to find ways to get some more players to inject some, ability onto the roster and keep us moving forward. And some of them worked well, and some of them, are kind of incomplete. We don't really know on some of the guys because of the injuries. But I did feel good at the time about where we put holes, where we plugged them. Obviously, we couldn't fix every possible problem, but I thought we did our best to try to do that and feel the roster that was going to help us be competitive. Now, again, the results don't speak for it, and we didn't do that. It didn't ultimately come to fruition, but I think that that's ultimately where I land on it.
So, Joe, that was a pretty long answer from Callahan there on the, do you think it was a mistake for your general manager to throw the check every boxes comment out there? That set certain expectations. And the first part of his answer there was pretty funny. I laughed out loud when he said it in the press conference yesterday of, sure, yeah, I can understand that. It's like, yeah, yep, I totally get where that might be the case. I found that to be very funny in his answer yesterday.
Yeah. Now, of course, he also, the check every box is that is definitely like the most, I guess, egregious example of setting expectations. Callahan, I think still, he didn't say, we're winning 10 games this year, but he had, he said some things that I thought also, look, these guys did think they were going to be good.
Yeah.
Let's be real, right? Like, they thought they had a good team. They thought they had a good roster. They thought they were going to be good. They weren't. Whose fault is it? But it was a good question by PK for sure. And I hear the point. I do. And it's funny, like, right? It's like, hey man, I ran and Chad, I gotta know, I'm talking to players. But at the same time, I play the devil's advocate on that. Like, should he know anything? He doesn't know for sure.
No,
he has a job.
No. I don't fault Brian Callahan at all for any of that yesterday. I really don't. We're again talking about an example, Joe, where the head coach is sitting up there having to answer questions about everything
Yeah.
else going on because nobody else will.
Yes, no doubt. No. And look, again, at some point, this becomes meaningless. Really, But it was a good presser. I mean, I think he did a good job. Like, if I'm the Titans and I exist in that bleep show right now, I mean, I want that guy talking for everybody. You know what I mean? I mean, he does a good job. And I thought that I thought he took accountability. I thought there was, some genuine, talk about their failures. And I don't, there's no answers right now and really on how you're going to get better. But I mean, I thought it was a good presser. Again, I understand if you're a fan, it's like, great, he's good with the media. He does good pressers. Yay. That's just so comforting. But I'm just saying it is like, whereas I think about last year, what they did to Rand when they fired Vrabel, and now, so that's the thing. If there is a move with the front office here, then do we get Brian again? Does Brian talk about it?
No, that's a good question. It's a very good question. Let's quickly head to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Joe, you got too salty yesterday over that, dude. Just to let you know, like, all I was saying was that I thought Robby was crushing it and that you needed to step it up. You can't tell anybody that anymore. That's what's wrong with this world. I do want to say that. But this one thing, real quick, man, is that Amy, the stadium opens at 2027. It's 2025, man. Like, we're creeping up on it. She needs to do something. Now, a lot of people don't like her daddy, and I actually would appreciate when something bad would happen with the Titans. He would either put a statement out or he would put something that was almost eerie. You could tell he was doing it from Texas, but at least he would say, hey, I'm here. I'm alive. I'm letting you guys know that I don't like this. She's got to do something like that, man. Like, she's got to do better, because I don't like not knowing anything. I still feel like dude's probably going to get fired, but why hang us out here on the hook like that? So I don't think she's doing her part very well right now at all.
Yep. Thanks for the call, Adam. Appreciate it. Well, step one to that, Joe, might be speaking with the head coach, which apparently hasn't happened yet. We'll get into that coming up next. Some interesting comments from Brian Callahan at the season-ending press conference yesterday. More on that next. We'll take your thoughts, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. We're taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, which I have access to today. 615-737-1025 is our phone
2 days
number.
in a row.
I know, it really is kind of a recent development here on the program. Brian Callahan with his post-season press conference yesterday, still employed by the Titans. Nothing from Amy Adams-Strunk and the rest of the organization yesterday. And, Joe, there was one part of the press conference that I found to be quite curious yesterday. Brian Callahan was asked about conversations that he's had with Amy Adams-Strunk and Titans ownership, which apparently have not yet taken place. Here's what Brian Callahan had to say at his press conference yesterday.
What was your conversation like after yesterday with Amy, and what did she want to know about your plan moving forward, and what did you want to impress to her about your plan?
I haven't had that conversation with her yet. That's upcoming. Again, this morning has been focused on the players and getting everybody out of the building with the exit interview. So that might be for another day. But yeah, that meeting will come.
So that was Brian Callahan on the Amy Adams-Strunk conversation, which apparently has not yet happened yesterday. Now, Joe, I'll be honest with you. I heard that and I thought to myself, isn't that kind of weird? Like, isn't that weird that he has not had a conversation with Amy Adams-Strunk yet, like in the immediate aftermath of the season? It's not like this is snuck up on anyone. Like, they've known that they're not going to the playoffs for a while. They've known that they're going to have a high draft pick. The season was coming to an end yesterday, which she was here for the game yesterday. I understand what he's talking about there with getting the players in and out of the building. So maybe it is just a logistical thing. But my first thought was, isn't that kind of weird that they've not had a conversation about any of this yet? What was your thought when you heard that from Brian Callahan yesterday?
Yeah, I think it is weird. They sent him out there. From Amy's perspective, I guess you'd rather like not have the conversation related to the public. I mean, that's as much as she wants to never talk to anybody, not be held publicly accountable. Wait till his presser's done to talk to him. But I mean, again, if the flight thing is true, she went home. I mean, to me, Robby, it reads like she doesn't know what she's going to do with everything. And so she's not going to talk to anybody until she does or doesn't do it. I mean, which again is just like, if that's true, that's how it reads. I don't know if that's true or not, but if you do know what you're going to do, then freaking do it.
Yeah. And if it's as simple as you're keeping everything together, then like say that, like put out your statement, put out your video with Mike Keith, like whatever it is. But the bottom line is you're a 3-14 football team. Like, I tweeted that out after he made those comments yesterday in terms of like, isn't that kind of weird that they've not had this conversation? And most people are like, yes, it's very weird, but it's par for the course for what this organization has been. And then some said, well, she's just clearly not planning on firing anybody. It's like, okay, well, you have to also understand, even if that's your plan, like if that's your approach and you're not firing Brian Callahan, you're not firing Ray Carthon, and you're bringing everybody back. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's fine. It's your team. You do what you want. You have to say something after you've gone 3-14 and you got the number 1 overall pick in the draft, right? Like she's just gonna waltz through this thing with no statement, no video. I mean, press conference is out of the question, right? Like we know she's not going to do that. But right. Is she just going to not acknowledge anything at all? And they're just going to move forward here?
I mean, that would be, to me, unthinkable. You went 3-14. Again, like we'll keep playing the thing from last year, if that's the last thing you said, which it is, right? I mean, I don't even think, I don't know. Does Amy for suite holders say some words at some point? Like, I don't know, but publicly to the media, to the fans at large, that's the last thing you said, right? Talk about the high expectations sooner than later. We got Rand, got the QB, got the cat, all that stuff. And then your team goes 3-14 and then there's nothing else. And you just, life goes on.
Yeah.
I mean, again, first of all, let's talk about owners. Okay. So Khan with the Jaguars, had a press conference. Mara with the Giants talked to reporters. Ursay talked to reporters. So these people are answering questions, okay? And in two cases that I just mentioned there, in all three cases, a bulk of the presser is about why people weren't fired, right? So yes, the idea that I can't even put into words the bush leagueness of just doing nothing and saying nothing. You can't possibly make that choice. I can't buy that. I don't believe that's the thing. If it is, my God.
Well, if it is, that's a huge problem. But if it's not, isn't that also a huge problem? Like, I guess my point is, how could you not know what you're doing by this point? Right?
Right.
Like, this is not snuck up on anybody. Now, granted, like I said yesterday, maybe the number one overall pick, has that changed the way you view things? And are you wrestling with that? Maybe. I guess I'll leave some room for that. But again, this season has been over since week 3. Whether anybody want to admit it or not, it has been over since week 3. This is not new information that your team is bad. So it would be mind-boggling to me, whether your decision is to bring them back or to not have made a decision on that by this point. So on one hand, Joe, you've got, well, if you have made the decision, are you ever going to say anything about it? And the other hand is, has she not made a decision? Because that to me is equally as unfathomable as the first option that we just threw out there.
I mean, look, we've been talking, like you said, you knew about the season, but just separate the two things. Excuse me. I understand, like, get all the information on the coach, which the last piece of information is Sunday. But, like, just take the front office out of it, right? I mean, that's what I've been saying all fall. Like, when Jared's like, well, what about now? And I'm like, well, I mean, I don't think it's really that different, right? Is it? I mean, like, we know the moves they made. And you can see basically some have worked out, some haven't. Snead has been a disaster, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, just from the front office evaluation perspective, like that work could have been done long ago. Should have been done long ago. It's nonsense. It's nonsense, and it's just making everyone, including these people, wondering about their jobs. Your fans, everybody who follows, cares about this organization, just make them sit there and wait. It's a joke.
George on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, I think Amy not speaking with Callahan before they send him up to the podium is not a good sign for somebody in terms of job safety. Is she just taking time to work on her statement and get her firings all aligned? This from George on the text line. What do you think of that, Joe?
I mean, do you know how many people work in that franchise? I mean, like, these statements, you can draft one of these in 10 minutes. You really can. Okay. I mean, it makes no sense. Like, now we talked yesterday about the Bears. The Bears did this to Eberflus. They said, go up there and say dumb stuff about the way you botched the end of that Lions game. And then we're
going to fire you 30 minutes later.
Yeah. Which is, again, that's just Bush League, and that's a Bush League organization. So if she knows, why would you drag this out? What possibly do you like? What do you get from that?
Yeah,
it's insane.
It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense to me. 615-737-1025, our phone number. So Amy Adams-Strunk and Brian Callahan apparently have not spoken yet about the end of the season. There's been nothing from the Titans in terms of what's happening here with this group moving forward here. What do you make of all of it? 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take more of your thoughts on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, sponsored by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, on Amy Adams Strunk, 615-737-1025. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Dylan to the program. Dylan, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, good morning, guys. You guys got me thinking, Amy being an absentee owner, and she usually makes her moves on Tuesday. And I'm thinking, does she really take into account the optics that we have in Nashville? It's like, it almost feels like she doesn't really have her finger on the pulse of her own team, that she's just flying back, allegedly. And I wonder if she even thinks about this kind of stuff. And I just want to get you guys' thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Dylan. It's a great question, Joe. I mean, we got a similar text, like Brian on the text line says, I'm not one of those people calling for ownership to sell the team. It's just not going to happen, and it's unrealistic expectations. But to think that the majority owner of this team gets on a plane and goes back to Texas after the game on Sunday is outrageous. She's not even in the building as players are leaving after a disastrous season. What a joke. It's hard to be a fan right now. It's from Brian on the text line. What do you make of Brian's point there, Dylan's point about the optics of all this with Amy Adams Strunk?
Yeah, look, I mean, and someone else pointed out, and it's true, like both of her firings of Vrabel and Robinson were both on Tuesdays. First of all, the J-Rob thing that was totally out of nowhere. So that was, it's not like on Monday, but it was like, ooh, you know what I mean? It was the middle of the season. So whatever day she did it, it would have been like, what the hell are we, what? Vrabel, though, yeah, I mean, it had that extra day last year, which is, again, the same thing. I think the exact same thing, which is why. So basically, you and Mark Davis decide this is how people should do. If you're doing business exactly like Mark Davis is doing it, then maybe you should, reassess how you're doing your business. I mean, there's just no reason to make people dangle in the wind like that. I don't understand it at all. You just responded to this texter who says, we got all off season to figure out what Amy's going to do. This doesn't bother me. She also doesn't know it's an explanation. Hell, we suck. Even if she does say something, the media is going to pick it apart. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'd make media fans wait too. LOL. Okay, again, but again, it's not just us. It's also the people who are wondering, hey, are my kids going to need to find new schools? I mean, these are human beings that have jobs. We sit there and, we pick them apart. You're right. We pick it apart. When you're 3 and 14 on the field, that's going to happen. But these are people who are wondering themselves, am I going to get fired? I mean, we had on our station yesterday, as we'll get into, the Jared saying he's heard Rand's getting fired.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian Callahan acknowledged the conjecture out there. Josina Anderson is reporting that, people are wondering what the GM job. Adam Schefter had something to that effect, kind of gently, like one of those, I don't know what's going to happen type things, right? So it's all out there. So now Rand gets to sit there for another day, twist in the wind and wonder. I mean, that's just BS. It's not how you treat people.
Well, and beyond all that, we don't have all off season to figure out what Amy is going to do. The time for Amy to do something is right now. You're either going to do it or you're not. The off season has nothing to do with Amy. I mean, the off season.
Let's wait till the combine.
Let's
see if they show up at the combine.
You've made either your decision to keep the coaching staff and the general manager, and they're doing things in the off season, or you're going to hire somebody else to do things in the off season. But we don't have all off season to figure out what Amy's going to do. The time to do something is now if you're going to do something.
Yeah, that's why they call it Black Monday. Well, that's gone. So now it's, I don't know. Terrific Tuesday. I don't Taco Tuesday. I mean,
always down for that.
Yeah, maybe that'll be a parting gift. Which, by the way, someone on the text line also is mad that apparently season ticket holders got a Delaney Walker bobblehead.
I had not heard that, but yes, somebody has brought that to our attention on the text line. Congratulations.
Well, I will say I kind of like the throwback stuff, so I mean I think that's kind of cool. But I get it. I don't know how that compares to other. You have to put into context for me, like what are past gifts for season ticket holders.
Look,
like
I had a job one
like
time.
Sweet Mariota jerseys. Okay, then this is a step down from that.
I had a job one time that sent me expired pecans as a Christmas present. So I mean, you can always sometimes I guess it's just the thought that counts.
Nice. Was it Charles McCabe who sent that to you?
No, it was not.
No, okay.
It was not. It was not. I got one texture that says, "I swear I heard Amy call into Stillman's show yesterday. Says it wasn't her, but it sure sounded like her." Reminds me back in the day on another program here in town where somebody called in sounding just like Randy Moss, and I kind of thought it was Randy Moss at the time when he was a Tennessee Titan back in the glory days.
Was it him?
I mean, it sounded a lot like Randy Moss. There's a YouTube video of it and everything. I'll have to show it to you.
And like defending Randy Moss?
Yeah, I mean, well, just basically attacking Jeff Fisher is what it was. So it was good stuff. Really good stuff.
That's fun.
Look, we got a lot of people pointing out that they have made a lot of their moves on Tuesday, right? Like I think Vrabel got fired on a Tuesday. John Robinson got fired on Tuesday. Now Robinson was in the middle of the year, so that one was
that doesn't matter.
Yeah, like
there's one example here,
right? So look, somebody might get fired. I have no idea. I guess the point is, if she has left town, like what are you doing that? When are you talking to your head coach? Like, is that going to be a phone call? Is that, I mean, what are we doing on that front? And number two, like, does it signal that you really have not made up your mind yet? Which I would find to be just mystifying. If we've gotten to this point where you've known that this is coming for a while and you haven't made up your mind by the day after the season is over, in a season that's been lost for months at this point. I mean, and either way, right? Like I've said it, I'm on team clean house. I don't think that's happening, but even if you're in the complete opposite viewpoint of that, and you think that these guys know what they're doing and you need to bring them all back and they're going to dig your way out of this, well, then release a statement like everybody else did. And instead of we're all sitting here in limbo 2 days after the season, and maybe something does happen today. The whole thing of this, Joe, is exactly what we've been talking about around here for months and months and months, and now years at this point. Of they just seem like an organization right now that cannot get out of their own way, and she's at the head of it.
Yeah, and so this is where someone, I mean, look, I know that a lot of people over there in that building think the same thing right now. Like, how could you, how could you wait? And of course, no one's going to say that, but this is where someone in that organization needs to have the gravity to be able to say it to her, because it's just absurd. I mean, so, and look, that could be someone in her family too, by the way,
Yeah.
I mean, there's younger people in the family who eventually are going to be taking over. Like, this is not how you do things. I mean, and again, I think the exact same thing of Mark Davis, and I don't care that she did it in the past. Last year was bizarre. Let's go have, closing day. And I don't remember. So, I'll try before the end of the show to figure this out. I don't remember how it was like messaged, but I think it was basically just like, well, Vrabel's going to have his presser Tuesday. Okay. Vrabel's going to have his presser Tuesday, which at that time, you got to remember, well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say at that time, you kind of assumed he was going to get his job. Actually, at that point, I know that I can speak for myself that I kind of knew he was toast.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how our show went Monday, but like, but we're all sitting there talking to the players about Vrabel, like, well, God, I mean, seriously, it was basically like, hope he doesn't get fired.
Yeah.
And then you wait till the next day. But that happened one time. This should not be your policy. You should have known from that situation how dumb it was and decided never to do it again. You do it on Monday and you let people move on with their lives. It's truly, the more I think about it, the more it pisses me off.
615.
By the way, hey, real quick, Robby, speaking of being pissed off, Adam in Portland, I don't even know. He said I was mad because he said you were crushing it. I was mad because you said the Titans quit. That's why I was mad at you, Adam. I need you to keep in order why I'm mad at you, Adam.
Yep. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll have more of your thoughts on Amy Adams Strunk coming up next. Plus, what's happening with Rand Carthon? A lot of stuff kind of floating out there. We'll get into that coming up next as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. So what's going to happen with Rand Carthon in the next couple of days here with the Tennessee Titans? Joe, you put it out there. There's a lot of talk about him right now. Jared, on his program yesterday, did not report that Rand Carthon was getting fired, but did say that he has heard that Rand Carthon could be getting fired here. So you've got that. You have Josina Anderson pointing out that a little bit of unknown of what's going to happen with general manager with the Titans, and people are checking in on that. Adam Schefter has put something similar out there. Meanwhile, Kuharski yesterday, Joe, said if there are not 2 firings, referring to the head coach and the general manager, and I don't expect them, I think that there will be at least one more Titans press conference this week, is what PK put out there yesterday. So what do you make of all this noise that is out there right now with Rand Carthon, the future of the front office, and what this all means as we sit here 2 days after the end of the regular season?
Do we by chance, and this is totally my fault for just asking this right now, but do we have what Jared said exactly by chance? Nicholas?
I don't think we have that readily available.
Yeah. All right. I mean, one part of it was like someone who has been right before, which made me kind of cringe a little. So I don't know who all is saying what, but again, it's not like Jared's on an island here either, right? With this, again, it's not a report. I do agree with what Jared said in terms of, we've had with PK, TD, others, I think, have sort of said, I don't expect anything. I'm not reporting it. Basically someone, likely in the organization sort of gave that message to some reporters, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's sort of like, I don't expect it, but also I'm not like, there's not a definitive, breaking, Titans not making any moves, right? So this is the same. So the Jared's point is this is the same sort of deal. I'm hearing this, so I guess this is, I don't know, is this a battle royale in reporting between Stilly and Pauly? Is the Stilly and Pauly show?
We can make it that.
Yeah, this is like a big showdown because, Paul doubled down on I don't expect that yesterday. And so it just all lends to just a giant ball of mass confusion over what's going on, which again is Amy's fault for letting that fester and letting everybody wonder and speculate. And, here, I think this might happen, or this looks like it's going to happen or not going to happen. It's just absurd. But it is interesting that, again, there's a difference here. I mean, PK has been on this beat for a long time. And there is a difference between like someone on a beat and someone not on a beat, but it doesn't mean that someone not on a beat doesn't get good information at times, doesn't have a source who tells them things. That happens all the time too. So basically, Robby, I have no idea what the hell is going on.
Well, that's the bottom line of, I think, where we're at right now, right? Is nobody has any clue what's going on. And that's kind of the point, right? I mean, again, if you've made the decision to bring everybody back, then make that decision, right? I mean, I don't, it's mystifying to me that you get through the day yesterday and there's nothing. And look, not that you have to be like every other owner in the league, right? Like you don't have to follow suit with what everybody else does all the time. I get that. But like, even Jim Irsay, I mean, he comes out with a statement Sunday night saying everybody's back. The Giants, first thing in the morning yesterday, talking about how they're bringing everybody back. Well, like it's clearly important to owners around the league to communicate their plan to their customers, to their fan base, right? Like that should go without saying. And
right
here we are 2 days after, and everybody's just kind of floating in the wind out here waiting to see what the Titans are going to do, which tells me that you either don't know what you're going to do or you still don't get it when it comes to your public messaging.
Yeah. And also like you are cruel because it's truly cruel. like for this to go another day, for people to not know if they're going to be having to move out of town again, put their kids at different schools, all that stuff. Like, you make a freaking decision the day you're supposed to make a decision. I don't care that she did it last year. That was stupid then too. Ben from Cumberland City says, I have a question. Is it possible a GM would leak that they could be getting fired to create a narrative, or possibly if they're in a position they want out of? Yeah, I mean,
Well,
first, I don't think that's what we're talking about here. I mean, I look, all angles of this are worth, I guess, discussing. But maybe ran Carthon. How does that help you? You know,
yeah, you're not leaving here to go get another general manager job.
Exactly. When you get a GM job, the history of this league is the second chances on the GM front are scarce. They're not impossible, but they're scarce. I mean, maybe John Robinson does get one at some point. Maybe. I mean, he's still collecting that Amy Adams Strunk money right now, but it's hard to get a second. Just once you get a GM job, you hold on to it for all it's worth, and you hope that you're like Chris Ballard and you can just go through a freaking decade of mediocrity and still keep your job.
Here is part of what Jared had to say yesterday on his show on the Rand Carthon front.
Like, I'm just going to put it out there. Again, if TD and Paul can say, hey, we're not going to report that there aren't going to be major changes, but this is what we're hearing, then consider this the same of, hey, this is just what I've heard over the last 24 hours. I hear Rand's getting fired. That is what all the conjecture is right now, all the talk behind the scenes that I have had with people that either would know or people who have demonstrated to me in the past that they're in the know is that Rand Carthon is getting fired.
So that was Jared yesterday on his show. That's kind of where his stance is right now on the Rand Carthon stuff.
So, and I'm not doing the source guessing thing. That's what Jared does. It's annoying, and I think he's often wrong. I'm not doing that. But I'll say this. If this is what he's hearing, like as we've already talked about, other people, there a lot of people are talking around this, right? In NFL media.
Yeah.
It's absolutely absurd that we're sitting here waiting for her to say something. I mean, if this is already out there to that extent, and again, you just fly home and get to it at some point this week. What do your horses need tending to? It's ridiculous, man. I mean, again, by the end of the show, I'm going to be like inconsolably angry because it really is treating people like dirt is what she's doing.
Well, and this is what bad organizations do. This is what bad organizations do. And we've talked about this, and nobody, I get it. Nobody around here wants to view the Titans in the same light as the Cleveland Browns or the New York Jets, or things like that. But look, this is what bad organizations do. And this is just an impressively bad run that this owner is on right now. I hope for her sake and for their sake that at some point today, a plan of some kind is communicated, whether that's moving on from the GM, moving on from the coach, bringing everybody back, whatever it is. You have to let your customers know, particularly, Joe, after a 3-14 season. That's the other part of all this. Like, you should do this regardless. I'll leave open the idea of, like, when you're winning divisions and going to the playoffs and going to the end of the year and you're ending in the AFC title game, you probably don't need to let folks know what the plan is with head coach and general manager. It kind of speaks for itself. When you're 3-14, I think common sense would tell you there needs to be a communication of a plan moving forward here.
Yeah. Now, of course, this is the same owner who put out a statement that Mike Mularkey was fine after he won a playoff game, and then after he lost the next playoff game, fired him. So I guess maybe we shouldn't be so surprised.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll continue the discussion on Amy Adams Strunk and the Titans, and how does this influence our viewpoint of her decision-making moving forward, regardless of what that looks like, whether it's keeping this general manager and this head coach on staff, or if it's moving on and going to hire somebody else. How do we view that through her lens? So we'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3. The Game, sponsored by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. We are taking your thoughts all show long on the Tennessee Titans. 615-737-1025. Nothing as of yet on the future of Brian Callahan and Rand Carthon / Chad Brinker. Joe, I would say that I feel pretty good about Brian Callahan being back, given the fact that he addressed the media yesterday. But then you find out that he and Amy Adams Strunk have not yet spoken. So I don't know quite what to make of that part of it moving forward.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I think he'll be back, but I mean, I who the heck knows? JC in Goodlettsville on the text line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com says, this is Jared putting it out there so he can say he called it if he gets fired, and also say he didn't say 100% he was in case he stays. JC, I don't think Jared isn't just throwing this out there and hedging his bets. You know, he's talking to people and people are saying this. Again, it's just, you know, to me, it's kind of like, think about like the whole course of this, Robby. Again, we'll go back a few weeks ago. Clearly there was, and again, I'm not source guessing. I didn't ask. I don't ask reporters, you know, but, you know, TD, PK, and again, I don't think they were alone, but those two for sure, because obviously we talk to both regularly on our show, saying they don't expect changes. Okay. And I go back to last year around Thanksgiving. You know, my colleague Diana Rossini wrote the story.
Yeah.
You know, that of course people had a lot of fun with, you know, but in both cases, I absolutely believe that Amy wanted that message out there. Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that last year. Well, I definitely, you know, more than believe it last year, and this year, I believe it. And so now you're getting mixed messages. You know, someone on the text line says she's floating this out there publicly to get the reaction and react to that and make a decision. That's what Ed says. She's purposely floating the changes to get reaction, then deciding, but they're split, so she has no clue what to do. Look, at this point, Ed, I can't sit here and say, well, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's hard to find ridiculous for like what she's doing and how she's going about her business here. Okay. But I don't think that's it.
Oh, I don't think so, but I don't know. I mean,
but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it could be it. I mean, look, you bring up last year, so let's get into it. Last year, around Thanksgiving, they clearly wanted it out that Vrabel was coming back and Vrabel was their guy, right? And then what happened 6 weeks later? Vrabel got fired. So things changed pretty quickly between the public messaging part of it and what ended up actually happening. Is that going to be the case here where you have PK and TD over the last few weeks just putting out what they've heard and what they've been told in terms of, you know, not necessarily expecting changes to take place
or big changes. You know, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but you know, basically the idea was like head coach, front office.
Right.
No, and obviously there's going to be some coaching staff changes.
Right. So, but does that change between when that started and now? And again, I mean, recent history would tell you that she could change her mind. I mean, it seems to happen quite frequently with this owner, just being quite frank with you. I mean, my God, she gave John Robinson a contract extension and then 9 months later fired him. So things can change pretty quickly in terms of how she views things.
So you know what you do? You keep your mouth shut and you don't try to put things out there that might change.
Yeah.
And you know, I've had this discussion with someone. I don't buy it. You know, could someone be going rogue? Could someone have gone rogue a few weeks ago and out of turn said some things to reporters who cover this team on a daily basis when it wasn't from her? Or, you know, I mean, look, anything's possible. That would really surprise me. That would surprise me a lot. Okay. That appeared to be some, you know what, sick of hearing about this job or that job, put an end to it. It's not going to happen. I don't see how anybody, unless you want to get yourself fired, would be doing that in the organization.
So again, if that's your plan and it's not going to happen, just say it at the end of the year. Like, I don't for the life of me understand how we're sitting here on the Tuesday after the season is over with, and there's no clarity on it whatsoever.
It's incredible. I mean, like, someone, and I've lost it, but on the text line getting after us, like, this is like Titans Facebook. We don't have the facts, and you guys are just like, no kidding. We'd like the facts. We can't cancel the show and wait until we know what's going to happen and then start talking about it. Unfortunately, we're in this situation of talking about how ridiculous this is. Yeah, we'd love to have the facts, but this is what she is doing. So now we have people throwing, and I get it. Like, let's come up with some reasons. There's got to be a reason, right? There's got to be some logic and reason to this whole thing. Wes and Clarksville, I bet Amy's waiting to get Vrabel off the books before she does anything. Well, I mean, the Patriots still are going to go through the entire hiring process that you have to go through in the NFL. So, like, I think Amy is safe in expecting him to be off the books.
I would think so.
I don't think that's it. And again, if that's what you're doing, you're going to go weeks for everybody to wait. And again, at some point, Robby, I guess, like, if it goes a couple more days, I guess it's just, okay, I guess just not doing anything, not saying anything about it. Great. But at this point, especially because she fired Vrabel Tuesday last year, I'm still expecting some sort of word today on something.
You would think that would happen at some point. But now, I mean, this kind of leads back to the larger discussion that we've had for months here. And that is her and her decision-making and what that means for this franchise moving forward here. So now you've got a situation where the season's over. You're, I guess, still in your process of making a decision on the coaching staff and the front office here. So on the one hand, Joe, if she elects to move on from Rand Carthon and or Brian Callahan and or Chad Brinker or some combination of those three, you've then got to go hire someone else. And then on the other hand, if she keeps them, you got to see if these guys can dig their way out of this massive hole that they've created for themselves with this roster and this football team moving forward, which was her idea to move to these people. And it brings up the larger question of her leadership and her direction of this franchise. How can you feel good about the way that any of this is going right now? I said it last segment. We're in the midst right now of what bad organizations do, and she's at the head of that. How could you possibly feel good about this organization's ability to dig their way out of this and to get back into being in a spot where they're a competitive football team playing meaningful games with a chance to chase a championship, which is ultimately what everybody is here for.
Right. So do nothing. People are going to be upset. And I understand, because you just haven't had much sign that this is going to get better. Excuse me. Do something, and people are going to be upset. And I understand, because now, so a year ago you told us all these things are great. Sooner than later, it's going to get better. You went through the process of hiring these people. You've decided, actually, I totally screwed that up. I'm sure the next hires are going to be great, though. Sure. I mean, there's just whatever the decision is, Titans fans shouldn't feel good about it. It's a bad one. That's where they are right now.
I mean, absolutely. And look, unfortunately, this is the part that can't change, right? Like, we've talked about this. We could talk about changing the GM and the front office and the head coach and all that, but when you have ownership that has been as questionable as this has been over the past few years here, it's really difficult to overcome that in this league. It just is. It's not impossible. We see teams do it, and you can make good hires with bad ownership. It does happen, but it certainly is a huge obstacle to get in your way, right? I mean, look, I understand that, especially if they lose in the playoff game coming up, that there's going to continue to be a lot of discussion on Tomlin and that whole thing in Pittsburgh. But just look at them. Like, look at what they've done over the last 30 years, Joe. Look at the model of consistency, getting in the playoffs, those things. Look at the Ravens. Look at how well run of an organization they are, and they have been. It just makes things a whole lot easier when you've got good ownership.
Right. And what good ownership does, well, first of all, they hire good people, but they also support them, and they can detect, bumps in the road that don't have to be, costing people their jobs. And so you have the consistency over time. Like sometimes if you have the wrong people, sometimes you have to make firings, you know, of course. And so, I mean, we can go back and relitigate Robinson and Vrabel. I think Robinson, as we've talked about, was a fair thing to absolutely assess at the end of that season. I probably would have not fired him, but at the end of that season, with the run he was on, it was a fair thing to discuss. But yeah, the consistency, supporting people, and of course hiring the right people. The good thing for owners is it's a small pool. I mean, it's obvious people that you're basically hiring for these jobs, right? I mean, it's basically like the number 2 at the best organizations, and a lot of them work out, some don't. The coaching stuff is, the hot OC, the hot DC. Sometimes it's a retread coach. I mean, for the most part, like it's everybody's trying to hire from the same small pool of people. So even if you're a quote unquote bad owner, you can, like you said, you can make good hires. Matt says, I think Amy likes letting the media squirm for a day or two before announcing. But see, here's the thing, Matt. We're not squirming. We're bitching. The people who are squirming are the people who are wondering if they're going to have jobs after today. They squirm. Why did they have to squirm?
Yep. 615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts on Amy Adams Strunk and the Titans coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. We have 75% off everything right now at theGameNashville.com/deals. All of Nashville's best deals are marked down lower than ever. Go to theGameNashville.com/deals for 75% off great eats like Brewster's Real Ice Cream, Soar Adventure Park, Fog Street Lawn Club, and so much more. Everything's got to go, so better go fast to theGameNashville.com/deals while supplies last. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. We're taking your thoughts all show long on the Titans, 615-737-1025. So again, here's where things stand. Brian Callahan addressing the media yesterday has not yet spoken with Amy Adams-Strunk about the plan moving forward and what this is going to look like with the Titans. There's no word on whether or not he's keeping his job or Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker are keeping their jobs as we sit here today on Tuesday morning. Now, Jared has pointed this out to me. Multiple people pointed out on the text line as the Tuesday thing with this ownership and with this franchise. You know, Vrabel was fired on a Tuesday. John Robinson was fired on a Tuesday. Wisenhunt got fired on a Tuesday. Now, a couple of those, Joe, were in season. Wisenhunt got fired in season. Robinson got fired in season. So those, to me, are different situations than what we're talking about here at the end of the season that you've known is coming for a while now. So it's kind of a different
Totally
thing there.
different.
So I don't know if look, I don't know that Amy Adams-Strunk is sitting behind closed doors and thinking to herself, well, I'll just do all this on Tuesday. You know, Monday's kind of a cruel day to get the week started that way, so we'll just wait a day into it, get to Tuesday so they can get their bearings about them a little bit, and then I'll fire their ass right at the end of it right there. So I don't know that that's exactly what she's thinking here, but a lot of people have pointed it out to us on the text line. So maybe today's the day.
Yeah. Well, what if it isn't?
I don't know.
No, I mean, I like if it is, yes, that is what she did last year. I don't care about in-season stuff. I mean, in-season stuff could happen any day. I mean, I guess with a coach, I would also say, why didn't you fire Wisenhunt on Monday?
Yeah, the end season AJ Brown one, she just had to go back and watch the tape of him spanking the goalpost a couple times. That pissed her off on the Monday, so she came back Tuesday and fired her.
Yeah,
anyway.
Monday just on a loop, and then came back. Those don't. The only last year was the Tuesday with Vrabel, which again was stupid. I mean, it's just what did you do on Monday? You know that. And again, let me say, Sunday night last year, I had a phone call and I basically knew, not able to report it, but I basically knew that Vrabel was getting fired Sunday night.
Yeah.
And then it became official Tuesday. Why would you do that? So the fact that it has happened before does not make it okay. And the fact that like Mark Davis, goofball out there in Vegas is doing the same thing with Antonio Pierce also does not make it okay. You should be embarrassed that that's who you're being compared to right now, while everybody else is out there doing things or not doing things. And then, taking questions from reporters, and like Robert Kraft's out there saying, I mean, look, you could call it disingenuous if you want. You could laugh it off, but he was out there talking about why he fired Gerard Mayo. He took blame for it. He said he put him in a bad situation, all that stuff. Hey, compare that to what's going on with this clown show.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, it really is. I mean, again, this is what bad organizations do. And I used to not think the Titans were a bad organization. It's hard to not think that right now. It's hard to not think that. I do want to share something. Stilly just shared this with me from Albert Breer from SI. This was apparently last night when he put this out there, talking about the Titans. Quote, Titans are going to be in an interesting spot. Tennessee locked up first pick in the draft Sunday, losing in dreary fashion to the AFC South champion Texans. My sense is changes will be forthcoming in Nashville, but more to support the work of Coach Brian Callahan and President of Football Operations Chad Brinker, who was promoted from assistant GM to the top spot last year, then exact a pound of flesh for the lost year. That said, a big franchise-shifting decision is coming. This is what Albert Breer had to say at SI. Now, he did mention Chad Brinker there. He mentioned Brian Callahan. He did not mention Rand Carthon in that little excerpt there. Your thoughts on that?
Okay, wait, I'm trying to find it. Did he tweet this?
And still, he texted it to me. But I,
But
can,
like,
I don't know if Breer's tweeted or not, but it's from his piece on SI.com.
Oh, it's from his Monday. It's from his MMQB. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. So that would track with, with the idea of Rand being out. Rand being, yes, scapegoated doesn't mean he's blameless, but it would mean that Rand, the blame for everything is being put on Rand, while Brinker would be able to keep his job. Again, Brinker, the guy who went out and targeted and grabbed from Green Bay and brought in, and Brian Callahan keep his job. Guy who went out, targeted, had to have brought in, and Rand is the one who would get zapped. I mean, again, there's nothing that they're gonna do, okay, that to me will seem like a good decision at this point. But that one, we already did the ranking of the dumbness, right, of possible moves, and that is number one on my dumb list. To split this up, blame Rand, get him out of there, and make Brinker the solo GM. I mean, truly, just again, clown show does not begin to describe it.
Well, Tony from Smyrna on the text line asking why Brinker or Carthon haven't spoken with the media yet. I don't know if they know that they have their jobs yet, so there's probably reason number one for that. What do you make of this question, which I think is an interesting one? Who does Amy Adams Strunk get her influence from? She seems like she doesn't know what to do because her advisors have let her down and made her look stupid. She's probably trying to figure out what to do without any help. This from an unnamed texter on the text line. What do you make of that?
Yeah, look, I think that's a fair question, and I mean, this is where, like, Steve Underwood, I think when he came back, there was some stability that he brought, and there's something to be said for that. Bert Nihill would be, to me, he's kind of, I mean, he's the one who I think it has her ear, right, and is close with her, seems to speak for her at times, but it doesn't have a football background. It's a legal / business background, and that's where what you hope her influence is from, like the people that she has hired to do these jobs, right? Like the football. I mean, Brinker got elevated to president, right? So I guess he could be that person if this is how it's going to turn out. I guess maybe he is, but also it'd be hard for me to imagine that Brinker is out here. Not that it would be the first time ever in the history of mankind, but that he's out here stabbing Rand Carthon in the back and wanting this to get blown up so that everything's on him. That'd be quite a turn from the guy who, again, Carthon identified, went and got to bring him here.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up later this hour. That's 7:45. Your thoughts on the Titans throughout the show on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. More of your questions to get to coming up next. Keep them coming. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game. Sponsored by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Take your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. So, Joe, let me ask you this. We just read that piece from Albert Breer, and we've talked about this. I mean, it's not just a Breer thing. There's a lot of noise out there about Rand Carthon right now. Will he be fired? Will he be retained as the general manager moving forward here? And there's been no clarity on that one way or the other from the franchise to this point. So let's say we get to the end of this, whether it's today or Thursday or whatever, and they make the decision that they fired Rand Carthon and that Chad Brinker is now the GM and the president and all those things, and it's the Brinker-Callahan show moving forward. What's your reaction to that going to be if that's the way that the Titans decide to go here? And what do you think the reaction of the fan base will be?
Well, let's read the thing again. Robert is asking for this. I'll Stilly sent it to me too. Let me read this because this goes to your question. Okay, so blah blah. Okay, here we go from Albert Breer. Quote: "My sense is changes will be forthcoming in Nashville, but more to support the work of Coach Brian Callahan and President of Football Operations Chad Brinker." Parentheses, who was promoted from assistant GM to the top spot last year. End of parentheses. Than to exact a pound of flesh for the lost year. That said, a big franchise shifting decision is coming. So, okay, so let's dig in on that. Chad Brinker, who was promoted from assistant GM to the top spot last year. If you don't follow the Tennessee Titans on a daily basis and you read that, you do in your NFL news and you read that, who do you think the GM of the Tennessee Titans is?
You would think it's Chad Brinker.
And so again, the entire thing is such a clown show that it's truly incredible. I mean, it really is. All of it is just truly amazing. So if that's true, what has Rand been doing?
Yeah,
it's just, and they have, by the way, they have counteracted that and said, Rand is the GM, Rand's in charge of personnel. They've said that multiple times. Okay, Rand's in charge of personnel, but I just read that from Albert Breer. Sounds to me like Chad Brinker's already the GM. Which again goes back to just the decisions, all these decisions, and then bizarre not telling anybody anything and putting out this statement. Here's their titles. Oh, wait a minute. So Chad's president. I mean, I've asked him what does that mean? And he didn't say that means I'm the GM. It means that he's in charge of all these other areas of the team. And it's basically kind of like, in a way, the idea of the Steve Underwood position, right?
Right. Until
no one ever thought Steve Underwood was picking players. But then also he's involved in all the scouting stuff.
Well, that's the thing. Then you get Brian Callahan up there yesterday, Joe, and he was talking about Brinker, and he was like, "Yeah, he's involved in everything we do. It's him, Carthon, and Brinker. Everything that they do, he's a part of." So it's like, why is it so hard for this organization to hire people and define their roles and say, this person is doing this person is doing this, and here's where they all come together. Here's what their job is. We've had 2 years of this now where we're sitting here throwing darts at the wall trying to figure out what everybody does around here.
So to answer your question, it's a complete bleep show if this is what they do. So what you're saying is it's bad. Someone needs to be fired. I can't even tell you exactly who's been doing what, but we know that this guy is certainly involved in everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you at least have to say Brinker is, I guess, like a co-GM, right?
Yeah.
So if it's so bad that someone has to be fired, why is he's good but Rand's out? Why? And of course, this begs so many questions. That one, start with why? What did he do to be fired? What did Chad do to not be fired? But of course, Amy won't answer a single freaking question.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not even really, before this week, I don't know that I've even really seriously entertained the idea of them moving on from like Rand but not Brinker, because it's been so,
It's so
stupid to
stupid.
me. Like I was like, surely, I mean, I've not even entertained it because it just sounds so dumb. But if that's the way that they go here, and it's like, well, we're going to move on from Rand, but we really like the job, Chad. Like Chad's been knocking it out of the park with the job that he's done. So we're going to keep him here. I don't even know how you even get to that point, particularly with what we've just talked about, where they've all been in there together. I mean, Brian Callahan said it yesterday at his press conference. They've all been up there together doing these things. So, look, again, leaving room always that there is way more information that they theoretically have behind the scenes than we do with how this operation goes on here and what that looks like. And maybe you get to the end of this and you're just like, yeah, we just don't think that Rand knows what he's doing or whatever it is. And you fire somebody after that. Okay. Well, so Chad Brinker and the results have displayed to you that he does? Like, I've never even entertained this being a possibility.
I can't think of a situation like this. I know, obviously in the NFL, it wasn't that. I mean, within my lifetime, it wasn't even like you really had like the GM in the same kind of role that it is now. So like things have changed a lot in the league. So I'm sure there's some comps out there to this, but I can't think of anything in modern history where you sort of split up a front office like this. And again, don't even have the sense to be honest about who does what. And again, to repeat, Amy brought in Rand, okay, and Rand went and got Brinker. And look, it is clear. One thing you can say is going back to last year and the change and the elevation of Brinker. Now, again, they both got promotions, right? Like they both got new titles, but obviously Amy was enamored with Brinker, right? If he got that much of a bump.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anything comparable to this. And again, this hasn't happened yet, so we'll wait and see.
Exactly.
We'll wait and see what happens today. But like the Breer thing is definitely another one in the sort of this murky. It sounds like it could be Rand, but no one will come out and say it. No one can report it, but there's whispers about it. And again, there were whispers just a few weeks ago about how nothing's happening. It speaks to just complete malpractice on every front of running a professional sports franchise.
Well, and here's the other thing, and people have brought this up too. We can address this. So we've talked a lot about Amy Adams-Strunk today, and just the absolute weirdness of the way this is going down right now. I wasn't on the plane, so I couldn't tell you. By the way, a lot of plane talk with this franchise. I wasn't on the plane, so I couldn't tell you what happens. But let's say that her flight went back to Houston and she was on it and she's back in Houston right now. How are you doing that the day after the season ends when there's been no public clarity one way or the other as to what you're doing? Like, are you coming back in tomorrow or are you later this week? How is this happening where it's the day after the season and you're not in there talking through some of these decisions? Like, I just purely from a leadership standpoint, I don't understand that.
No, I don't either. But obviously she did the Robinson firing remotely.
Yeah.
So now she did the Vrabel firing in person. So that's another interesting thing too. So I assume last year she didn't go back. Maybe she did. Maybe she went back and then came back. Maybe whoever's got that flight tracker. She coming back today
I don't know.
Fire some people or fire a person? No, it's terrible leadership. I mean, there's no way around it. Lenny says the silence of Strunk and Carthon shows I don't care about Titans fans. Lenny, Rand Carthon right now is probably listening to all this speculation out there and not knowing if he's going to have a job next year. I mean, It's not. It's nobody who works for Amy right now should be blamed for silence or not silence. Like they don't. Everybody's waiting on her to do something.
Well, that's
and
the
to
thing.
say something.
Well, we've been critical, and I think deservedly so, of Carthon not making himself available to speak more often than he has throughout his tenure, right?
Sure,
Like,
sure.
but that's not the same thing right now. Like right now, we're wondering if he's coming back to do the job, right? And that has to be defined first before you can get to the making the public appearance later, right? Like we got to figure out that part of it first. And right now, there's no clarity on that. Like I don't understand how they can't recognize that. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Yes. Spent more time rewiring your brain. Is he actually a robot? He's like C3PO, where you like take the face off and like, oh, no, the turnover wire. I got a little bit pressed here.
Psychologically, this is a great setup for the Titans and Will Levis, right? Potential to be really good. It's like Pavlov's dogs. Like, oh, here, go over there and sniff that butt. He's going to do it every time.
The verbose Joe Rexrode at it again here on the program. It is time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. Joseph, the floor is yours. I'm starting to get a little worried about the amount of clips that Keyser has mashed up here. There's a large collection that's brewing back there. Big file folder.
And I don't know, like, what was I talking about? I like the C3PO, kind of made me laugh. What was I talking about?
The rewiring of Levis's brain with some of the turnovers.
Yep, it was an answer to a text that you were not very happy with.
That was Levis. Okay, all right. Yeah, it is a little bit concerning. He's got like just a big stack of weird stuff I've said.
Yeah,
that he played. Look, I mean, it's been an hour and 45 minutes of, I feel like basically the entire show's been a rant. So I almost feel like I need to take a break here. So let's talk about this Tennessee-Florida hoops game tonight. No, I'm just kidding. I want to give Robby a heart attack. It is a big one, by the way. Number 1 Tennessee at whatever Florida is, number 6 or whatever. Huge game at 6 o'clock. But to keep it here, what we're talking about, here's a text. This is going to be the inverted rant. This is going to be, let's relax and talk calmly and quietly to each other about Amy Adams-Strunk and the Tennessee Titans. But this texter says, as a fan of the Titans and a listener of 102.5, it seems as though every journalist speaks to Amy Adams-Strunk's leadership with all of the general characteristics of a bad leader. Reactive, puts her ego into decisions, no transparency, willing to take credit for success but no failure. How do you see these types of qualities playing out over the next 4 to 5 seasons? Will it make a difference? Or is it truly a personnel issue on the football front? So let me just say, I think reactive and no transparency are absolutely 100% characteristics of Amy Adams-Strunk that have gotten her and her franchise into huge trouble.
Yeah.
The whole ego into decisions and credit for, I don't know about that. I don't have any, neither of those things. It comes to mind, you know? I mean, I know that those are things people talk about with bad leadership. But being reactive, and the no transparency really is, and I understand this is a media person, so yeah, I know like fans will say, oh yeah, go find someone else to interview or whatever. I do think that for the most part, media and fans are unified on this. It usually happens if we're talking about someone who, is losing, right, and the team is doing poorly.
Right.
It's absolutely absurd, and I don't care that she fired Vrabel on a Tuesday last year. Like again, Rand Carthon. Maybe she has told Rand if she's going to do this, that he's out. But I doubt it, because if that had happened, it would make the rounds. In this league with agents and people talking, like it would be out there. So right now, Rand Carthon is hearing things. People are talking about it, speculating about it, and we have no idea if it's actually going to happen. Again, let's remember, Kuharski yesterday says he doesn't expect this to happen, and then he would basically expect, I guess, a Carthon and Brinker presser. So we just have no clue, and that is so insane on Tuesday of this week. I'm sorry, it's mind-boggling, and I can't get over it. But I am trying to be calm, and I want to hear from you people. So you tell me what you want to talk about.
Well,
it's over and over again with this, and it's just the more you think about it, the stupider it seems.
Well, I think about the flip side of that too, though, because you bring up, well, maybe she's told Rand that he's going to be out, and I think you're 100% right. If that were the case, that'd probably be out there by now. Like I think we probably have wind of that. The flip side of that is, like, what if she's told him that he's safe and that she's not doing anything? It's like, okay, well, then why won't you communicate that to your fans? Like any way you slice this, it just doesn't speak well of her and their as an organization's ability to communicate and connect with your customer. Like at the end of the day, that's what this is about, right? Like, yes, she makes a ton of money and the NFL is an extraordinarily profitable business, and some owners, that's the only thing they care about. Like we know that. That's fine. But you still there's a baseline of customer service that you kind of have built into the job here, of particularly magnified when you're 3-14. I keep coming back to that. Like when you're 3-14 and you have, friends and family in the stands on Sunday against Houston to close out the season, and you've got a new stadium coming in 2 years. Like there's so much about this picture right now that I think you need to be leaning into the transparency and leaning into the plan moving forward if you're Amy Adams Strunk and the Tennessee Titans with your fan base. So the flip side of that, Joe, is, well, what if she has told Rand Carthon that he's safe, he's coming back, and that she's not making any changes? Why in God's green earth have you not communicated that yet with your fan base?
Exactly. Like there's just no, whatever it is, the way you're going about it is completely wrong. Texter says Rand Carthon has never spoken to the public. That's not true. Rand Carthon has had several press conferences. Yes, he should have more. He should be available in season when there's a big move. Like the trade this year, trade for Hop. That's worth to me a presser. But I mean, Rand is the guy they had to put out there for everybody, for the presser when they fired Vrabel last year. Yep. So no,
which went well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, went about it as well as you would think. I mean, again, he can't even speak to what she's doing. She has to do that. It's just to the point of the taking credit for success, all that stuff. When things were going well, I think Amy was especially good. Like, again, Amy's like, she's out there with fans at their tailgate before the Titans Chiefs AFC title game in Kansas City, right? And stuff like that. I've seen her at training camp, interacting with fans more than probably most owners do, which is great. I mean, that's good. How is it that you're incapable of taking questions? It's not like you have any surprise about what these questions are. You're just explaining what you're doing to your customers, to your high paying customers, who now you are asking much more from as you move into this new stadium.
Hair Metal Henry on the text line says, "Who cares about Rand? I'm 7 days into dry January and got carded for non-alcoholic beer. We need a rant on that." This from Hair Metal Henry on the text line. That's a tough one, Henry.
So dry January, but you still want that delicious taste of the beer. Yeah, why would you be carded for non-alcoholic beer?
I don't know. It's a good question.
I mean, I know that there's like 0.001 or something, right?
I have to think it's
some
because
tiny little bit.
Henry looks young, and he's been rejuvenated out there. That's what I have to think.
Yeah, you should feel good about that, Hair Metal.
Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in George to the program. George, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Listen, love the show. Been listening for a long time.
Thank you.
I'm actually an Eagles. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Eagles fan, transplanted to Tennessee, so most of my time spent watching the Eagles. But I do listen, watch Titans a little bit. I am shocked that your phone isn't ringing off the hook all day, every day. This reminds me of the Norman Braman-owned Philadelphia Eagles, where he spent most of his time in France. And if I'm a Titan fan, I'm furious. One, my team stinks. Two, there's no talent. Three, there's no future because the draft's going to be screwed up. And you're right. If I'm a customer and I'm paying thousands of dollars for tickets and Amy Adams Strunk doesn't want to give me some kind of communication, I mean, like I said, I'm an Eagle fan and I'm kind of pissed off she's not calling everybody. So where are the callers, man? This is crazy. I mean, just want to say I'm with you guys. And I mean, this is just ridiculous. So that's my spiel. Have a good one, fellas.
Yep. Thanks for the call, George. Appreciate it. I mean, I think what he just said there lays it out pretty well of where things are right now. We'll get back into the Amy Adams Strunk conversation coming up next. Some comments from Brian Callahan at his press conference yesterday as well. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game here on this Tuesday morning. Sponsored by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you talking all things Titans. Joe, quickly some news to pass along. Mike Vrabel apparently interviewing with the Chicago Bears tomorrow. So keep that in mind. Everybody thinks that Vrabel of the Patriots is a lock. And maybe it is, but we'll see. But the Boston Herald putting it out there that he is interviewing with the Chicago Bears tomorrow. So we'll see what that looks like for Vrabel.
Yeah, well, and if I think we talked about this yesterday, but if it's true that Ben Johnson and Jacksonville may end up being a little bit more of a match, then although God, if you're a coach looking at that job and coming in under Balky, I don't know. But regardless if that's the case, I think that Vrabel could well be the Bears' first choice. He could well be the Jets' first choice. He could be the Raiders' first choice. And I think it's clear that he is Robert Kraft's first choice and why Robert Kraft made the move he did. That's what I think is reality over there. So how about that Vrabster? Hotly pursued.
Hotly pursued. We'll see what happens on that front. In the meantime, with the Titans, you have a head coach that addressed the media yesterday in his season-ending press conference who has apparently not yet spoken with the owner. Here's what Brian Callahan had to say when asked about his conversations at the end of the year with Amy Adams-Strunk.
What was your conversation like after yesterday with Amy, and what did she want to know about your plan moving forward, and what did you want to impress to her about your plan?
I haven't had that conversation with her yet. That's upcoming. Again, this morning has been focused on the players and getting everybody out of the building with the exit interview. So that might be for another day. But yeah, that meeting will come.
So that was Callahan yesterday, and not yet having a conversation with Amy Adams-Strunk. Now, look, he said several times at his press conference yesterday that he spent most of his day with the players and exit meetings and all those things, which I'm sure is the case. He was asked about Carthon and Brinker's job status yesterday, and basically was like, well, I've been spending all morning long with the players, so I've seen some of that conjecture, but I couldn't tell you. And as far as I know, until I'm told differently, those guys are here. So there's a lot of that going on yesterday. I found it weird that he had not had a conversation with the owner yet about the future of the team. Again, it's not like this date snuck up on anybody. Like the end of the season, we've known what it's going to be for a while here, and there's no playoff berth that was going to take place. So they've been bad for a while. We've known that they were going to have a pick near the top of the draft for a while now, and then Sunday it became the number 1 overall pick. So I found that weird that he had not yet spoken with Amy Adams-Strunk. What do you make of that, and what do you make of where things currently stand? With that in the background, Rand Carthon's status and all those things have not yet been addressed by the Titans. There's been no statement released, even though you're seeing it all over the league from different owners right now. What do you make of where we sit here on Tuesday morning, Joe Rexrode?
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on, and that's one of them. I suppose one reason that you wouldn't yet talk to your head coach is because you have a big move that you're about to make to change the structure of the organization, and you want to have that conversation with your head coach after you make that move, and you can talk about how things are going to proceed moving forward. So why not wait a few more days, I guess? What the hell? No one's in a hurry. It's just, that's all I can come up with. Obviously, there are signs, Robby, if you go back to last year, if we're gonna compare this year to last year when she fired Vrabel on Tuesday, well, that's also what happened, right? Like she didn't wasn't on the sideline or got out of there early. There were some things that she did last year that she did this year too. Does that mean that Callahan's in trouble? The difference would be Callahan actually had his presser yesterday, whereas Vrabel, I said earlier I'd find this at the end of the show, and by the end of the show, and I still haven't. But I believe I will check on this in this hour, Robby. I believe that it was just communicated like, Mike's just going to have his presser tomorrow, and then of course the presser ended up being ran,
right,
talking about how Mike was fired.
Exactly, I believe that is how that went down. I mean, look, I remember the day after the season ended last year. It was basically just going around to a bunch of players asking about Vrabel, right? Like Will Levis, like, man, I really hope they don't fire Mike Vrabel. Like that's basically how it went at the end of last year. So there was no Vrabel speaking the Monday after the season. Now, does that guarantee that Brian Callahan is safe? I mean, I don't know that anything is guaranteed right now. I still feel pretty good about him being the head coach of this team next year. But then there's the Carthon side of this. So what does that do? Like, when is that decision made? When is that decision communicated? And what does that look like for the Titans here? Now, Callahan was asked about Carthon yesterday specifically. You know, the line of questioning eventually got to expectations and the communication of those expectations by the Titans. And we've talked a lot about that. Some of the messaging in the offseason, in the preseason, I think the Titans went overboard. Carthon specifically, you know, when you're talking about, man, you know, every single coach that we've got was number one on our list. Like, all these coaches that we ended up with were our number one guys on the list. Or, man, you know, I was going over with the offensive staff here about things we were looking for in free agency, and we checked every box from the starters way down to every backup. It's like, okay, well, that's all sounds great. And then you follow it up with a 3-14 season, the messaging not really adding up to what we saw in the field there. So Callahan was asked about that yesterday and whether or not he thought that was a mistake from his GM. Here is what Brian Callahan had to say on that regard.
Brian, do you think it was a mistake for your general manager to say you guys had checked every box on offense, starters and depth? That set certain expectations.
Sure. I understand that. I think that, you know, we did feel like we had put, you know, pretty good effort into trying to get ourselves in position to be competitive, you know, and when you sign, you know, we want to be a draft and develop football team. That's what we want to do. And in the meantime, though, we needed to supplement with free agency. I don't think that any of us are under any guises that this is how you build a team all the time. You don't want to do that all the time. But we had to find ways to get some more players to inject some, you know, ability onto the roster and keep us moving forward. And some of them worked well, and some of them, you know, are kind of incomplete. You know, we don't really know on some of the guys because of the injuries. But I did feel good at the time about where we put holes, where we plugged them. Obviously, we couldn't fix every possible problem, but I thought we did our best to try to do that and feel the roster that was going to help us be competitive. Now, again, the results don't speak for it, and we didn't do that. It didn't ultimately come to fruition, but I think that's ultimately where I land on it.
So that was Brian Callahan's response to that yesterday. What do you make of how he handled that and how the messaging affects now what we're seeing and maybe what we're not seeing to this point this week for the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah, it's a good question by PK because, you know, I do think, like, I mean, Brian Callahan, you know, again, no one from this organization came out and said, you know, we're gonna win the division or whatever. This is a playoff team or this is a division. But definitely we will be competitive. We got a chance. Things like that. Certainly, Callahan said stuff like that a lot too. I think the checking the boxes thing was the most egregious example of, and again, that is sort of a, you know, Rand has done things like that before with the whole, you know, got a text from the GM. They were so mad I took this guy or whatever, or you know, the coaches were the first choice, every one of them, you know, and stuff like that. It's just like, it's clearly hyperbole as soon as it goes out there, right? And it's just like, but you know, Callahan, it was a good question. I thought he handled it about as well as you could handle it, and he at least acknowledged that, you know, that this is something that could be problematic. But the whole thing with Callahan and Carthon and, well, the front office in general, again, is like, I mean, as we talked about earlier in the show, Robbie, yeah, there was some level of, man, I don't know what's up with those dudes. Hope it goes well for them, you know. But also, like, I don't know what else he's like, you know, I think he's just like everybody else. Like, what's she gonna do, man? I don't know. I mean, he acknowledged the conjecture, and he's totally talking about all this stuff about Rand out there. So he's like everybody else. Well, wonder if she's going to come back or call somebody or put out a statement or fire people, not fire people. It's just ridiculous.
So it goes back to her in this discussion, and it again begs the question. Okay, why have you not sat down yet and spoken with your coach apparently about the future of all this and where things are going here? Why has there been no statement released in terms of what your plan is moving forward here? And if your plan involves firing Rand Carthon, why have you not done that yet? I mean, again, this date yesterday did not sneak up on anybody. This is not really new information that we're dealing with here over the last few weeks. So what's the holdup? On one hand, Joe, it either signals that you haven't made a decision, which is just mystifying to me if that's the case. Like, again, this is nothing new is going on around here over the last few weeks. So you've either not made your decision yet, which is incredible to me, or you have made your decision yet and are just absolutely horrendous at communicating it with your people and with the public. Neither one of those are good options to me.
And again, Vrabel, and I don't know what his Monday was like last year. He didn't talk, as we've talked about. We talked to players. It was being communicated Sunday night that Vrabel was taking the fall. It did not become official, and I believe it was a quick meeting on Tuesday with her and Vrabel, and I think Burke Nihill, but I know obviously her and Vrabel in person. It was quick, it was fast, but that's when he got the word. Why? If media people are getting, again, at the time, this is a good, I guess, it's kind of like similar to like TD and PK and other people covering the team this year. There's things that you get told sometimes that are not reportable. You can't report it. This is embargoed. This is off the record, but so right?
Right.
And that was one of those situations. But if you're to the point where you're comfortable doing that on Sunday night last year, why are you not speaking to Mike Vrabel about this until Tuesday? What is that day for? So you can have more attention on how dysfunctional you are on Tuesday after the other teams get rid of their stuff. It's like and it's just treating people poorly. When it comes down to it. I mean, take all of us out of this for a minute. Fans and media, just the people who are Mike Vrabel's a big boy and he'll be fine and all that. And he's getting paid a whole bunch of money this last year to do nothing, right? Other than sprint with Jameis Winston and I guess be the offensive line coach for the Browns too. But still, I mean, how do you treat people like that? If you own a business and you treat people like that, how?
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take your thoughts on the Titans. Amy Adams Strunk and the lack of clarity so far this week on what's going on with the future of the Tennessee Titans. More on that next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight for Vanderbilt men's basketball. Commodores taking on Mississippi State at Memorial Gym. 8 o'clock tip-off, pregame show beginning at 7:30. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at thegamenashville.com. Vanderbilt men's basketball presented by Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball, coming to Nashville's Municipal Auditorium February the 5th through March the 2nd. Go to auprobasketball.com for more details and to purchase tickets. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Joe, one texter says, I believe that if Joe could share info about his gout, Amy should share her thoughts and intentions about the coaching staff. I mean, if that doesn't sum it up, what does?
That's a great point. I believe in gout transparency. Amy, I challenge you. Football transparency. My gout transparency. If I can do that, then you can tell us about your football franchise. Thank you.
I think
Please
that's
do that.
What the hell is wrong with people?
I think that's the ground rule that we should probably establish here. John from Nashville, doesn't this just reiterate the state of the organization? The procrastination behind addressing the coach/GM direction of the team is insulting to the fans. I won't be renewing my season ticket. This is from John from Nashville. We've heard from a few different people today, Joe, that have talked about the ticket part of this, that they will not be participating in. We'll see kind of what that looks like moving forward here. Another texter wondering if this is Amy Adams Strunk trying to pull some BS corporate power move by making people squirm for a bit so they can think about what they've done before she ultimately keeps them. Just one of the many reasons why she's unfit to run a professional football club. This is from an unnamed texter.
Boy, that'd be something. While we all scream about her,
Yeah.
I don't know if I buy that one. Steve says, I'm an inaugural PSL club seat holder, and I'm not renewing. It's not because the cost has increased tenfold, nor is it because of the team's performance of late. It's because of the lack of personality, transparency, identity, and leadership. That's a pretty strong text there from Steve. And by the way, to the Jake said it earlier. Applause for the caller from Philly. What was his name? Philly
George.
guy? George. And but to George's question there, why aren't the phones burning up? Well, one thing I love about this show is like we got people conditioned to text. We can get to a lot more reactions. Not that you're welcome to call. Calling's good too, but the texting gives us way more people getting their voice in than waiting on hold and then me, cutting you off and yelling at you and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, let me tell you, we got a lot of text rolling in today, as expected.
Yes, we do.
A lot of text.
On the YouTube chat, too. I've been on the YouTube chat's kind of popping over there, too.
Yeah. What about this from Pat from Bellevue? Do you feel like they should fire both the GM and the head coach for consistency? Maybe give the new hires 2 years to show progress. Yes, I do. I mean, that's why I've been in the clean house part of this. I said it last hour, Joe, and I'll reiterate here. We talked last segment about how Callahan has not spoken with Amy Adams Strunk yet, and there's a lot of noise out there about Rand Carthon. And, the noise is this. Like, Jared talked on his show yesterday about how he's heard that Carthon's going to be fired. Josina Anderson has put it out there that there's a lot of questions right now about what's going on with GM with the Titans. We read the Albert Breer piece earlier talking about how there could be a move coming, and it's designed to build around Callahan, and Chad Brinker did not mention Rand Carthon in that setup there. So, look, the status for Carthon, I think it's at least fair to call it up in the air at this point, Joe. So what does that all mean moving forward here? Like, the idea of them moving on from Carthon and keeping Brinker around has not even been something that I've entertained, because it just sounds so dumb. Like, it just sounds so dumb that would be the way that you would go. And yet, I feel like that might happen here. Like, that might end up being the end result this week.
Well, there's a lot of smoke around that, but there's smoke around that. And there's, as I've said, there's PK saying he still doesn't expect firings to happen. And if that's the case, he expects a press conference, which I read as, a press conference involving both Brinker and Carthon. I guess if they fire Carthon and keep Brinker, does that mean there's a Brinker presser? I don't know. But no, I'm with you. Like, I have separated the two in terms of, and I understand the idea of if you do fire a front office, then the new front office should be able to hire their coach. but I'm okay with the idea of separating, front office from coach, moving on from the front office, giving Callahan another chance. Look, there are plenty of coaches who had terrible records early who turned it around. I mean, Dan Campbell, people may hate that comparison. Somebody's been texting about Bill Walsh all day, his 2-14 start. I mean, didn't Jimmy Johnson go 1-15 his first year? Isn't that
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, 1-15. I mean, and did people down there see good things? I mean, they knew Jimmy Johnson had won a national championship in Miami.
You heard it here. Brian Callahan, Jimmy Johnson, and Bill Walsh.
Well, I'm just saying, you can have a bad record in 1 year as a coach and turn into a good coach
for sure.
So I'm okay with the idea of separating those two things. I don't think it's ideal, but it's okay. But separating within the front office is just, again, like if Chad Brinker is truly as influential as apparently he has been in charge of and his tentacles on everything, how is he not culpable for this?
Yeah, I can't. It's hard for me to get there. It really is. Joe on the text line says, people saying she should have made a decision already are the same people that say she reacts too quickly. Let's be consistent, people. I do think there's a middle ground there. Like, this is just me. I don't think it's too much to ask for the owner of the professional football team, Joe, maybe to not fire people willy-nilly in the middle of the year when they're 7-5 in first place in the division. And also then be prepared at the end of a season that's been over with since mid-September to have some sort of direction in terms of which way you're going. Like, I think there's a middle ground there.
Joe, did you see the other owners in the NFL yesterday? They've had weeks to ponder these things. Monday after the season is the day you do these things. You fire people or you don't. And if you don't or you do, then you take questions from reporters. The Giants, Colts, Jaguars ownership, all those owners took questions.
Robert Kraft was out there. Yep.
That's right. So there's 4. They all took questions on firing or not firing, or in Khan's case with Jacksonville, 1 fire, 1 not fire. And they answered questions about it. And they were ready on Monday to do those things and talk about it. In season, that's where you're reactive and you're like, what are you doing? This is the time to make the decision. This is the time. That's yesterday. Yesterday was the time to make the decision and to speak to your customers.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot more of your thoughts to get to on the Amy Adams Strunk Titans front. Keep them coming on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll have that coming up next. Pred's Pick to Click at 8:45. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, sponsored by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home with a $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. So, Joe, it is Tuesday. As multiple people have pointed out, a lot of moves that the Titans have made over the years have come on a Tuesday. Now, some of those have been in the middle of a season, which is not the same thing as what we're talking about right now. I would hope that there is some sort of clarity today at some point, one way or the other. If there's not, I guess, do you have to consider the possibility that Amy Adams-Strunk is just not going to address things at all, and that they're bringing everybody back, and she's just not going to publicly comment on the 3-14 product that was just thrown out there? Like, that's hard to fathom in today's NFL, an owner doing that. But do you have to entertain that possibly could be happening if we get through the end of today and there's nothing from the Titans brass?
Yeah, I guess. But if that's how it goes, then I have to assume that there's truly no one in this organization who feels comfortable advising her. Because like everybody in the organization has to know how stupid that would be, right?
I would hope so.
She may not. She should also know. But just in case, like, someone should tell her, that would be astoundingly stupid to not address, again, a year after your interview on video with Mike Keith telling us about all the reasons for excitement and how this franchise is getting back toward that championship chase sooner rather than later. You then go 3-14. You get the number one pick, for being the worst team in the NFL, and then not addressing why you did nothing. That would speak to me of, I guess, more of a dysfunctional organization than I even realized.
Yeah, it's wild. Anything else in particular you stand out from Callahan yesterday? We've talked a lot about the Amy Adams-Strunk part of this. Callahan was asked yesterday about play calling moving forward and whether or not, he would be willing to give that up. He did say he would give it up if he felt like it was the right thing to do for the team, but that he expects to be the play caller moving forward. My thoughts on that, Joe, were like, if you don't really trust him to be the play caller anymore, then you might as well just fire him and move on, because that's part of what he needs to be doing here. I thought he handled the press conference well yesterday, particularly given what we talked about throughout the show of not really having a course set yet on where things go from here. He did talk about the quarterback part of this, said that he's not really done a ton of evaluating, but he's going to dive into that. He's going to be at all the all-star games and the pro days and the combine and all that stuff. So obviously, if Callahan's back as the head coach as we expect him to be, he is going to be heavily, heavily involved when it comes to making the quarterback decision. And also said, Joe, not that this is some surprise, that he was pretty straightforward with Will Levis about where he needs to improve, but also said, like, they're bringing somebody else in. Like, there's going to be another quarterback in here. And I think the phrase he used was, at worst, or probably at best case for you, you're going to be in competition with somebody next year. So some more nuggets from Callahan's press conference yesterday.
Yeah, it's sort of overshadowed by, obviously, the fact that we have no idea who's going to have jobs in this organization at the top of the flow chart there. But that I did think was but I thought that it was very clear there that, as you said, he said he was straightforward with Levis, and it's, basically could be a competition, or could be that, there's a clear starter in here, not you. And so I thought that was interesting. And also you kind of compare that to some of the stuff Levis said after the game and also yesterday about hoping for more on his plate and things like that. And basically, I guess more freedom or more responsibility on the field, more of the offense, whatever the case may be, which I understand wanting that, but also I just don't think that this year he demonstrated I don't think like not having as much on the plate was the issue, was it? Seems like at times it was too much still.
Yeah. I mean, I did not walk away from really any game, certainly the season this year, from Will Levis and say, you know what that guy needs? More responsibility. Let's put more on his plate. That was not the takeaway that I had from the Will Levis part of this year. I didn't necessarily walk away with any more clarity one way or the other, Joe, in terms of which way they're leaning at quarterback. Like, I still think the veteran bridge quarterback makes a lot of sense for this group, just given where they are, the status of this quarterback class that we think heading into it. Callahan did say that, people on the outside can have opinions about a quarterback class, but all it really takes is one guy. Especially when you have the number 1 overall pick, like, they have the opportunity to pick whoever they want to pick. So I didn't walk away from yesterday's press conference with Brian Callahan, not that I expected to, having any more clarity as to what way they'll be leaning with the answer at quarterback moving forward here. I'm continuing to be under the belief that the veteran quarterback bridge option will make the most sense at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, it'll all come down to a wonderful collaboration.
It will.
Between who? I don't know. But they'll all collaborate, all agree, and everyone will be friends, and I'm sure it'll work out great.
Well, you know what? I don't know that there's enough, Joe, dysfunction around here. So why not just double down? I mean, all in for the Rodgers, Devontae Adams combo to come into Nashville. Let's get totally into this thing. I'm here for it.
Okay. Well, someone texted today, how about Rodgers as your veteran and then Shedeur Sanders come in?
That'd be good.
As your rookie.
Yeah, let's do that.
I believe Big Joe is calling for
he wants him to hire Deion.
Deion and Shedeur.
Yeah.
Deion and Shedeur. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I mean, look, for our purposes, that would be awesome. I'm here for it. I don't know how successful it would be, but it couldn't be a whole lot worse.
No, the daily Deion PK thing would be true magic. Like, it would actually, like, NFL Network would actually need to like carry all the Titans press conferences live. It would actually be that amazing.
We have Rand. We have a promising young quarterback.
Oh man,
that one won't get old.
Oh my goodness. This same texter who correctly credited me for my gout transparency says, if Amy doesn't address the media / fan base, I believe I'll reevaluate my status as a Titan fan. And I totally understand people feeling that way right now. I will tell you that I know of a little organization in this league that had bad ownership for a long, long time. And yeah, I guess they did have more transparency. The owner did speak sometimes, at least, but bad ownership, bad decisions, no hope at all. And then sometimes you fall into hiring the right people. Although I think, and I am speaking of the Detroit Lions, you also had someone in the family who seems to have a good sense for things, made good hires, stuck with them when it was bad early. Look at them now. It is possible. So don't give up hope. In this league, it's built for everybody to bounce back, for the bad to get good, for everybody to be right around the middle. And so even as bad as things look right now with Amy Adams Strunk, the next time she hires people, she has a decent chance of getting good people because, again, it's pretty obvious who your pool of candidates is.
Well, yeah. And again, I've been on Team Clean House. I don't think that's going to happen. But even if your decision is to bring everybody back, then make a decision and stick by it. Like, I think that's really what we're looking for today. Like, come to a decision, communicate that decision with your fan base, and then let's move forward here and see how equipped you are as a franchise to get out of this. But like this drag in your feet, it just screams incompetence. And there's been too many things around here over the last 3 years that have screamed incompetence. And it ain't just her, but man, does it start with her. And if you're a Titans fan, you're sick of it. You're sick of the incompetence that is taking place around here. And here we are again at the end of the season. You got an entire league's worth of owners right now that are handling things one way, and yours is handling it a different way. And again, that's not always a bad thing. but it just screams incompetence what we're seeing right now. And I've had enough of it. And I think Titans fans have had enough of it.
Yeah, it's truly incredible that you could do things this way. And look, I think we're going to get something today, right? I don't know.
I have no idea. I have no clue.
Okay, so let's do another what would be dumber? What would be dumber, that we get the word that Rand Carthon's out, Chad Brinker's still in, and that's the decision, or that there's just no word at all today? What's dumber?
Yes.
We're gonna call that a tie at the top?
Yes. I mean,
okay.
What's your answer? I mean, both are just unconscionably stupid to me.
It is very close. I shouldn't ask a question like that without having my own answer, but I guess I'd still give an edge to the Carthon out, Brinker still in. I'd give that a slight edge. But like, if we go through this day and we come back tomorrow for the show and we're still talking about this, oh my God.
Could be spicy with PK tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that'll be the case no matter what. You know, there is a lot of talk of these Delaney Walker bobbleheads, Robby.
Apparently, people are really mad about these bobbleheads.
But someone said that they have done this before, where they give out, it's like throwback. So
look,
I'm just throwing it out there.
Somebody brought it up on the text line today. That was the first I had heard of the Delaney Walker bobbleheads. But people are really, really upset about these being handed out apparently at the end of the year. Guys, thank you for watching us play this year. Here's a Delaney Walker bobblehead.
Yeah, like, again, I need the context of what previous gifts for season ticket holders have been. Like if it's like a cool, like, authentic jersey or something like that would be awesome, right?
Thing is, though,
that would
like,
be way cooler than a bobblehead.
This is again an example of, like, had the Titans gone 13-4 instead of 3-14, like, you'd be, oh, cool, a Delaney Walker bobblehead. Thanks, appreciate it. Just a matter of perspective.
That's right. Now, PK texted me. He says she will not talk. So again, I don't expect her to talk, like to be available. But I'm saying, put out a statement.
Yeah, put out another video.
Whatever. I mean, even if it's just a written paragraph, okay, fine, do that. Do anything. Ridiculous.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. Preds Pick to Click coming up next. Be the first caller at 615-737-1025. If you guess a goal scorer for the Preds tonight against the Winnipeg Jets, you'll win a pair of tickets to a future Nashville Predators home game. We'll do that next. Wrap up the show with our final thoughts on the Titans as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's time for Preds Picks to click.
And a shot at the score.
Do you think you know who will score a goal in tonight's Predators game?
Little give and go.
Shoot your shot for a chance to win Preds tickets. Call 615-737-1025 now. It's Pick to Click, now on Robby and Rexrode.
It is time for Preds Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode. Preds back in action tonight, taking on the Winnipeg Jets. I'll have your pregame show at 6 o'clock tonight here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Puck drop at 7. Standings in Preds Pick to Click. Rexrode in first with 8 correct answers. I'm in second with 5. Listeners have 4. Nick Keyser with 3. With that in mind, let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Terry to the program. Terry, good morning. Thanks for calling in. Who is your pick to click tonight from the Nashville Predators?
Good morning, guys. Hey, my favorite player. He's going to get it done tonight. He needs it bad. Forsberg.
Going with Philip
The
Forsberg.
listeners are going to be tied with you, Robbie. He's going to get it tonight, finally, after 18 games.
He's due. There's no doubt about that. Appreciate the call, Terry. This is, I believe, the longest goal drought of Forsberg's career, which is pretty incredible that this is taking place right now. Forsberg off the board. Nick Keyser, your pick to click for the Nashville Predators.
I'm going to go with trying to make it a little bit dicey here. I'm going to go with someone I haven't done frequently, Jonathan Marchessault.
Really stepping out on a limb there.
Well,
you said you were going to spice it up.
Yeah.
And then you picked Jonathan Marchessault. I'm just throwing it out there. Forsberg, Marchessault off the board. I'm up next. Give me the captain. I'll go Roman Josi tonight. Forsberg, Marchessault, Josi off the board. Joe Rexrode, your pick to click.
Stamkos.
Going with Steven Stamkos. Forsberg, Marchessault, Josi, Stamkos. Preds in action tonight at 7, taking on the Jets. I'll have your pregame at 6 here on 102.5, 106.3. The Game. Preds going for win number 3 in a row tonight. So we'll see if they can get it before they come back home Saturday to take on the Capitals. Joe, your final thoughts on where things stand today with the Titans. The Carthon noise in the background. Coach hasn't spoken with the owner yet. The owner may or may not be in town. Who knows? This is good stuff from Tennessee Titans this week. Gotta love it.
Yeah, real solid way to treat your customers. I got a text that says, $1 billion stadium under construction, 3-14 season, no QB. Would you speak? Hell no. Well, yeah, I would, but I understand, like the impulse to cower and hide, but like this is when you actually most have to speak. And again, I understand she's not speaking like in person live with other humans, but put something out there. There's a lot of back and forth on the whole bobblehead thing, Robbie. Someone said they got a Chris Johnson bobblehead 8 years after he played. So apparently that is a thing, like the old school throwback bobblehead.
Hey,
I agree. We need a D-Mace one.
I'm all for a good bobblehead. Doesn't matter if it's I'd take a, Vince Young bobblehead right now.
Absolutely. Also, someone said that apparently they got a nice Oilers sweatshirt as well. So I don't know. I guess
cool.
I don't know. Doesn't sound like it's. I mean, of all the things to complain about, I don't think this is high on the list right now.
I don't think so either. I think there's a long list of things that we could get to before that. Although, like I said, this is what happens when you're 3-14. If it's the other way around, the perspective shifts a little bit here. Look, I hope that there's direction one way or the other today on the Carthon stuff. Like, there is smoke to it. So I am interested to see, you've got PK putting it out there that he doesn't expect any more firings this week. Jared has put it out there that he's hearing that Carthon is going to be fired. There's a lot of noise about Carthon right now. It would be great to get that part of it resolved today, Joe. Like, is Rand Carthon going to be here and serving as the general manager, or is he not? Let's get that figured out today, and then you can move on from there. That should be step one.
If nothing happens today, then I really think that we should just take this show and Keyser, I'll record it for you. I'll record the word Wednesday. And then all you have to do is just run the exact same show. And then every time I said Tuesday, they say Wednesday. And we'll just complain for 3 hours about Amy Armstrong. It's the exact same show. I have nothing new to add. If there's nothing that happens today, I have nothing to add to this. It's just the same. It's just another pile on the bleep show.
Oh, I bet we can add a few more clips. A few more clips to the file could be added tomorrow if we don't hear anything today. I feel like you could be in for a special one tomorrow.
I think if that's the case, then I think we need to spend the first 2 hours on the Gators Tennessee game. We got Vandy Mississippi State tonight too. Couple huge games in the SEC. Historically good conference. Just saying. Just throwing it out there.
Thank God you brought college basketball into the mix today. I don't know what we would have done without that. I'm glad that you were able to bring this to our attention.
I'm sorry that you don't care that your Vols are number one. You know, it's whatever. Vols are number one. Who cares?
I just need to figure out where all the money's going, because if it's not enough of it's going to football, we might need to have some conversations around here.
Like, you need to give Chaz Lanier a pay cut right now and go get another lineman.
I need a wide receiver. Go get a wide receiver at some point. That's going to do it for us today here on the program. Paul Kuharski will be with us on the show tomorrow. And, man, could that one be a doozy. We'll have it for you starting at 6 a.m. in the morning. Chasing Big Joe is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3, The Game.